Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge in the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the Butterfield Bermuda Championship. I know, hold tight. I know you're excited. This is going to be my preview, picks, and bets, and all in one show. Going to do all the analysis and custom stat models. We're going to dive into the course. We're going to go through this brutal field. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm re-recording the show. I did it earlier, and it was not good. It was a two-word review. I'll give it a shit sandwich review about what this field looks like. So I'm redoing the show for you guys because, you know what? If I'm going to do it and put it out, I want it to be at least, pretty good for you guys. So I'm going to take another pass at this. So give me about 30, 45 minutes. We are going to go through all the information. I'm going to give you everything you need to know to get the best DFS lineups going. And also, for me, I'm actually more excited from the betting side. Whenever you get into these really bad fields, watch out. You can have a long shot hit. And you guys know I'm all about the long shot. All right, let's talk a little golf. All right, so if you watch the CJ Cup, which I got to watch sparingly, I'll be honest with you. Watched a bit more probably on Thursday, Friday, kind of lost it on Saturday, Sunday. But neither here nor there. As you know, Rory is number one in the world and or back. I think this is his ninth time he's done this. I think the last time he was number one was 2012, but that's just off what I remember hearing. But really the tournament, I mean, cool course at Congaree. I enjoy that. I like the Palmetto. These guys, I think, what was I saying? I thought they'd go about 15, 16 under. Definitely went lower than that. But also the weather was just perfect. It did play firm and fast. Of course, you had you had Rahm that was kind of back and forth what I saw on Sunday. But ultimately, Rory pulled it out. And I actually pulled some stroke gain data stuff up here for you just so you can quickly look. I mean, the good news was my analysis was dead on. I was kind of hoping for like a Cam Davis or a Cameron Young or somebody better odds than 6-1 to win this thing. But, when you get in these no-cut events and you get that elite of field that we had in it, that's why I didn't bet a whole lot. I think I had 5 or 6 bets out there. But the ball striking was definitely king, which we knew it would be with that kind of length. And also, Rory just dominated with the driver. His pitching, the 100, 125 in was off, but everything else was spot on. Kurt Kitayama, I was a little piffed, to say the least, that he did that well because I had him in a ton of lineups for the Zozo, and I think he missed a cut, but he definitely didn't do well. Cage Lee, as always, your winner at the Byron Nelson back-to-back. Great ball striker, when his putter's on, away he goes. Tommy Fleetwood was probably one of the better outings that I can remember in North America, at least off the top of my head for Tommy. Of course, I mentioned John Rahm was nippy, and of course had that good showings, as I mentioned, on the Europe side with a win and a second. Aaron Wise, he did very well with the putter, just didn't ball strike as well as he typically does. But yeah, and then Brendan Todd, I would say, is a bit of the shock out of all my. I mean, that was not somebody that to lose 3.5 strokes off the tee, but he just really did it with with approach, and then of course gain with the putter. But to be gaining 7 strokes on the field overall. It's pretty impressive. You had Sammy Burns, who gained a ton with the putter, nothing with the irons, actually lost, and did it with the driver, so driver and putter. But overall, like I said, I had no problem with my analysis. Everything was spot on. It was just, again, in no-cut events from a DFS perspective, as you saw, you really got to have the nuts to be up there. I mean, I felt like the guy who won it, the 100K or whatever, literally had almost this lineup, maybe minus Fleetwood. But yeah. So anyways, that's enough on that, and we are going to a total opposite kind of field, but I think a pretty cool venue. So let's go talk about it. All right, so we are heading over to Southampton, Bermuda. This is the start of the vacation swing. They got this in Mayakoba, then they come back to the States. They play the Houston, and then they play RSM, and then it's kind of done for a while during the holidays. I mean, you got like the QB shootout and stuff like that, but nothing that we're pretty much too worried about. I mentioned the course is called the Port Royal Golf Course. They've been playing this event there for the past few years. It is a Robert Trent Jones, opened back in 1970, Major Reno back in 1995. Now, it is a par 71, and it's only 6,800 yards, just a hair over, so it's short. I mean, the par 5s are very gettable. The par 4s, you got, some that are drivable. You got, yeah, I mean, it's an easy track. If the wind and the weather don't blow here, watch out. And then the par 3s are really the only challenge outside of the wind for a course defense. Of course, you got Bermuda fairways. You got Zoysia rough, about 2 inches. So nothing really to hinder you if you get off the fairway. And the fairways are very generous. And of course, you got TIFF Bermuda greens. Um, on that green side, just note they are slow. And of course, whenever you get on these coastal courses, either they're past Palm or Bermuda, and so they got to grow them out because if the wind picks up, they can't have the ball blowing all over the place. So we're going back to a cut field. Only got 132 players in this field though, so pretty good odds that you should get 5 of 6 through or 6 of 6. Your historical cut rounds about even. Either if you look over the 3 years, it was like +2, +1, or 1 under. And funny enough, the guy who has the best track record at this course is your past winner in 2021 was Brian Gay. He shot 15 under net. If I remember correctly, it was a bit of wind at that time. And then funny enough, the playoff was versus Wyndham Clark. And so if you look at the past 3 champions of this event, you got Brian Gay, who is a plotter, right? Hits it like 275 in the middle of the fairway. Okay with the irons, but has a really good short game and a great putter, especially on Bermuda. And then you got Brendan Todd, your winner for the first year, when he almost went on that, I think won 3 times in a row. I think he won Mayakoba and Bermuda, and then almost won another one. It was Puerto Rico. It doesn't matter. But long story short, he shot 24 under, and he's the same kind of game. 280, 285 off the tee, hits the fairways, and is just a great putter on Bermuda. And you can also see Harry Higgs. I think everything is because he's a big player that he hits it really long off the tee. He really doesn't. I think he hits it about, I don't know, average 295, 300. But he had a good showing here. He is in the field. And then you're going to see Brian Gay all over this place. Again, came in third that year. And then you don't see up there is Lucas Herbert, actually, is your winner in 2022. And he kind of fits that Wyndham Clark. He's a bomber. Hits about 330. He doesn't have a whole lot of control over his driver. I've seen it get really wayward. But he's got a crazy putter. And so, again, it really kind of goes. You'll see how I'll work my way back, wanting the best putters, and then we'll kind of work our way back to the tee. All right, average green size here is a little bit larger than average. I already mentioned slow greens. You do have a bunch of sand out here, 88 sand bunkers. You've got, I believe it's 4 water hazards, and actually on 5 holes, water does come into play. Don't mind that stip meter thing that was somehow accidentally kept in here. I already kind of talked about course defense. It is a very up and down elevation, so typically you're not going to have a flat lie when you're hitting your shot. The ball will be below you, above you. You have a lot of blind shots, so that could be a bit of also course defense. I already mentioned the par 3s. There's 3 of them over 200 yards, and there's 2 specifically that are 235. One that I remember runs right on the water. I think I have a picture of that. And then what's kind of unique about this is that holes 1 through 6 actually kind of sits down in a bowl. So if it is windy, actually, and those are some of the very scoreable holes, that's where you can really make your hay on this course. I believe it's actually 1 through 7 or something like that. You do have some out of bounds. You've got bushes that run in between some of these fairways. We could maybe take a quick look at that. So really, some of the past notes I have here is kind of funny, and you'll see is that you can literally put a bomber squad together if they're good putters, like a Wyndham Clark or a Lucas Herbert, who is not in the field for whatever reason. I have no clue why this guy's not planning to go try to win back his title. I mean, I think it's his only one on tour, off memory. And so I'm kind of shocked. But where I was going with that is, like I said, you can literally build some lineups that have the bomber squad that are good putters, or you can build a plotters. But honestly, usually how it works out is that you're going to get a little mix. You're going to get the plotter, a couple of those, and you're going to get some of the bombers. So we'll kind of figure that out as we go. And then the last thing, note, we need guys that are good wedge players from 75 to 100 yards. So we'll also take a look at that through the modeling. Okay, so a real quick image. Last I checked, there's not a good course map out there. You don't get a lot of it. We also don't get stroke gain data here, which is a bit of a bummer. I feel like, hey, if I was the ShotLink guys, I would be pushing pretty hard to go to this course because, as you can see, it's just gorgeous. But you can see water off the tee. I think it's on 2. It looks like a par 5. You got a little water from the green on 3. Looks like water coming along on 17. And then I know there's a par 3. I don't know if it's 16 here. Could be. That runs right along. I think this is it here. I think this is 16 that we're looking at. But anyways, yeah, pretty cool course. And this is that 235 I was talking about. And then I'll give you another view that I pulled up. Actually, I think I like this because this was like an old protection for Bermuda. I think there used to be like cannons and stuff here. So back, I don't know, it was a pirate days, I'll make up. But you can see pretty wide fairways, but you've got these bushes and trees and, of course, the water if you do get way wayward. All right, so the most recent scorecard I do have, and this is would be what, 3 years of data we have. And the only thing that I've already mentioned a lot of these holes, you have some drivable par fours. But what I'd be looking at if I'm playing Showdown, I think I would want to take the guys going off the back. And the reason why is you'll see you have this stretch here on the front. And I mentioned 1 through 6 is down in that kind of lull. Easiest hole 7. So if they get to like 17, let's say they could birdie those two, they could just you feel like you have 2 or 3 opportunities to hit that birdie consecutive bonus if they're off the back. I'm not saying that they can't start on 1 and technically 1 through 3 they could do it, or maybe 5 through 7. But I feel like with the 17, 18 being a little easier, you have this kind of the gauntlet here that you have to run between 13, 14, 15, and 16. Toughest holes on the course. And 2 of those are those long par 3s I mentioned. That would be the only thing that I would call out as typical. They got 6 birdie opportunities. You also got 2 very eagleable holes, these par 5s, so number 7, and you can see number 17. Okay, and I did pull the PGA scorecard for this event, and it is spot on the yardage, so we have no issues there. All good to go. So as always, I build you guys a custom stat model, and I run it through a bunch of different ways, and I already mentioned the past 3 winners over there. And this is the kind of the things that I think you need to be very well. What is shown up now, even though we don't have stroke gain data, we still got a lot of data that we can kind of pull from. Like I said, these procs to pins, I'm just stating that's what I'm looking for off either comparable courses or recent form. But really, I'm working my way from the green back. And what I've seen over and over, it's the best putters on Bermuda. You got to just hit fairways. You don't have to be long. Brian Gay and Brendan Todd will tell you that. You always need to have good irons. The better, closer you are, the better shot you've got at making a birdie. These are the 2 proxies that I'll be focusing on, 75 to 100, 100 to 125. And you're like, well, how'd you figure that out? If you look at the scorecard, if you take 300 minus each hole, you can easily figure out the average tour player hits it about 285 to 300. I'd say more now at the 300 mark. These 3 par 3s, we're going to look at who does that very well from 200 out. There's 3 very gettable par 5s. I already mentioned 2 eagle ones. Around the green does show up sand saves and birdies. So that will be with the big, large model. And with that said, I've ran a recent form. So this is as usual, where I'm taking the past 6 tournaments or 24 rounds of golf, no filters turned on, and against my model where I'm rating, which is very rare I do this, but I'm putting putting at 20%, good drives at 20. If you don't know what good drives, what does that mean? That's either you hit the fairway or the first cut of rough. It does not take in distance. It's just about who's the most accurate. Approach, of course, that's your shot to the green. I got that weighted at 20%. Fairways gain, which is a stat that we can look at this course. Those par 3s that are long, I got the sand saves around the green, par 5s at 5%. And then those 2 procs to the pins I mentioned at 5%. With all that said, you plug it in. The guy that comes up number 1 over the past 6 tournaments at these things is Adam Long. And if you've been with me for a while, I've stated over and over and over that when you get to these swing vacation courses, if you want to call it the vacation swing courses, I guess best way to put it, that this guy just shows up over and over and over. So, and it could be a bit, the field is always weak, and he's actually a good player. His win was at the Amex, so it's also a shorter course, kind of, makes sense. But he's had good showings at Mayakoba, at the Puerto Rico. I don't think he's actually ever played Bermuda. We'll confirm that. So this will be a first, but everything tells me this guy should do very well. All right, let's move along. You got the Canadian Michael Glick. I always struggle with that last name. It's hilarious. But he would fit more on the bomber side, but has been playing good golf. You got Grayson Sigg. You got Ben Griffin. Russell Knox, he's done well here and also on some coastals. Hits that kind of fade. Hits it, pretty accurate. It's just the bad putter. And so if the putting goes, Knox could do something. I think he's also, we'll look at it, but if I remember off the top of my head, he's played her, I think, 3 times and had good finishes. Justin Hadley, I'm very interested in. What he does very well is putting. But all the kind of from a stat side and everything should work out here. Funny enough, I mentioned he had a chance to win the Palmetto, which was at Congaree, where they just played the CJ Cup. So maybe it's just, a little off the late. I think Mark Hubbard's a great play. Fallen Taylor would fit in that kind of plotters, but very smooth swing. Also can score some birdies, funny enough. I will use him randomly depending in Showdown if I'm like really trying to build a crazy 5 set and just need that 6,000 player. Thomas Drake, I believe, is your most expensive player in the field. So we got a couple European guys that are up there, which is interesting. It shows you how great this field is. Austin Cook's been playing some decent golf this past summer. Aaron Rye had a really good showing, and I'm going to blank a couple tournaments ago. I don't think it was at the No Cut. Maybe it was a so-so. I think it was before that. Doesn't matter. But he's been playing good golf. At least had a good showing recently. You got the lefty Hank Laboda, who I was riding for a long time, trying to get a bet and a win. Not this summer, but the previous. He came close. You got Colin Turin. You got Ryan Armour, who has a pretty good track record here and fits again right into the, Brian Gay, Todd, plotters, and then Justin Lauer. Funny enough, coming in as your best putter, not on any specific surface, but over the last 24 rounds or six tournaments he's played in. Okay, so I can't do a true history at Port Royale that you guys used to seeing, where I could take my model and just put it against the course. As I mentioned, we'd have 3 years of stroke gain data, which would be nice. But funny enough, there is some things we can look at. Of course, all these guys all of them almost played 3 times. But we can look at total stroke gain data, which I'm not really sure how they calculate that when they're not actually using stroke gain data, but I've got it. But I already mentioned Brian Gay kind of owns this place. A T12, a win, a T3. I mentioned Russell Knox done very well. David Hearn, funny enough. That'd be kind of a sneaky little play. Kramer Hickok, Denny McCarthy, Hank Laboda, Peter Malnati. You'll see that he is actually WD'd from this event or pulled out, not going to be here. Ryan Arman and Seamus Power. Just some ideas. And I always mention when I see Seamus Power, if you watch golf a bit, he's from Ireland, and you would think, oh, well, if he's from Europe, he's got to be good in the wind. And I'm not saying he's bad in the wind. I'm just saying he hits a really high ball, which does not typically fare well. So just a side note on that. And then what I also did from a history standpoint, I went ahead and pulled what I guess you call the old data. Fairways gain, green and reg, birdies, bogey, avoidance, eagles, par. Like, this is data that has been tracked forever. And it still gives you a picture. It's just not as good and in depth as stroke gain of guys that have done here well. So I weighted, the fairways and the greens like 50%. I turned up birdies quite a bit, then bogey avoidance, and then the eagles and the pars. And if you're curious, these are the top 15 guys under that who have played this track before. You got Knox, Denny McCarthy, Alex Smalley, your Wyndham player that lives right there, good putter. You got the Tyler Duncan, Hickok, Brian Gay, Chad Ramey, who I believe won Puerto Rico last year and did it a lot with the putter. Austin Eckroat, David Hearn, Seamus Power, DJ Trahan, Henrik Norlander, typically a great ball striker, terrible putter. Justin Lauer, Ryan Armour, and Hank Laboda. So if you're curious, that's about as close as I can get you from a horses from courses, if you want to say. All right, I mentioned one of the most important things here, I think, is the guys that can putt really well on Bermuda. So these are your top 15 guys over the last 36 rounds on Bermuda. Some are going to have a little less, but most of them, and just tell you who are the better putters lately on Bermuda. So you got Martin Traynor, you got Brian Gay, Adam Long again pops up, Ben Taylor, Thomas Detry, Chalmers, Sung Kang, Ryder, Chesson Hadley, Scott Brown falls in that little plotter camp. Stefan Yeager, Denny McCarthy, Harry Hall, Richard Wierenski, my buddy that I'm always chasing for that win, and David Hearn. The other thing I said is hitting fairways here is crucial, as it always is, but the more fairways you hit, of course, the better shot you have at getting it close to the to the pin, making birdies. So I wanted to look at that, and again, it just shows up. If you look at 2 of the past 3 winners are very accurate with the driver. Ryan Armour number 1, Aaron Rye, Doug Gim, Grayson Sig, Austin Eckroat. The Shankster, Taylor, Adam Long again pops up. Hubbard, Garnett, Knox, Gordon, Nate Lashley, who I'm interested in. I know he had a good showing at Pebble Beach. I think it's a good comp course for here. We got a bunch of others that we're going to talk about. Of course, all the vacation swing courses make total sense here. But he also hits a very low ball flight, and he also gains typically on Bermuda. So we'll take a look at him. Lucas Glover, and then Chad Ramey, I mentioned, won not too, well, last year this time. The Puerto Rico Open, and very windy conditions. Did a lot with the putter. And if you're curious, the number 1 defense on this course, I believe, is these long par 3s. It shows up as the hardest holes on here. And if you want to know who does well at those, again, this could be just one more data point. If you're already kind of like, hey, I like this guy, this could maybe push you over the edge. You got Thomas Detry again, Vaughn Taylor, Scott Brown falls in the plotter camp. Luke Donald, of course, plotter. Good short game, real good short game. Good. Used to be a great putter. I think his putter's come back a little bit. Wesley Bryan, at one time great ball striker, terrible putter, but I don't know what he's doing now. Kevin Chappell, we have not seen in a while. I kind of put him in that EVR camp to Eric Van Ruin, who will be here, and I've got a little information on him, but it's been a while since we've seen EVR. You got my buddy Smotherman, who great ball striker, kind of rough putter, rough around the green. You got the Zay Shang Dao, who I don't off the top of my head know a lot about, so I'm not going to pretend I do. You got my Canadian again, Michael Glickick. You got Grayson Sig, the Shankster. Molinati is not playing. You got Nunez, Cody Gribble, and Some You'll Know, which is Sung You'll Know, but I always think of Some You'll Know. All right, those are guys are good on par threes. All right, there is going to be a bit of wind here. As always, the weather is going to change on a dime, but I did look at the weather. It is Tuesday. I'm recording this, and it looks like Friday for sure. There's going to be some gust. So what I wanted to see was over the last 12 rounds. So you got to remember this. This is crazy windy condition. So maybe once at the Players, once at Bay Hill at Arnold Palmer. This is not the last 12 rounds they played. It has not been windy as that's what the actual thing is in Fantasy National that you can click on. So I just said, well, what? The last 12 rounds that these guys have played in big wind, who's fared the best? Under this more simplified model, you'll notice that it's not the big model. I kind of tuned it down a little. And funny enough, Adam Long came up number one. Funny, I would have been interested in playing Peter Molinari, but he's not there. You got Scott Gucheski, Andrew Novak, Robert Streber, who I believe, won Shriners, I feel like, a while back. Camilo Villegas kind of falls in that Nate Lashley camp. He can putt really good. At least what I've seen, he hits that low ball flight too, and also putts pretty well in Bermuda. You got Justin Lauer, Sean O'Hare, MJ Dufay. You got Chesson Hadley, Benoit Ann off the Corn Ferry, a great ball striker. And if putter pops, which it did not too long ago, a few tournaments ago, he showed up. There's my Vaughn Taylor again showing up. Patrick Rogers, the old Stanford guy. We've been waiting for a win. Great ball striker and just, again, could shoot 7 under one day and go out and shoot 7 over the next. CT Pan, steady player. And then Scotty Brown. All right, so I mentioned whenever I do comp courses, I always tell you guys, do I think it's a good thing to use? I think it's or don't even worry about it. I think for this one is very applicable. And why I say that is, it is unique, this kind of course. When you go and play an island course where you can get crazy winds and playing at Zoysia and at Bermuda or past Palm, the way that, trying to, around the green and reacts, I do see where it covers. I mean, like I say, you look at Brian Gay, who does nothing at any other course, but funny enough, he comes here and he does very well. So with that said, I'll tell you the comp courses I'm using. You can see here. So Wailea, where they play the Sony Open, the Puerto Rico Open, I believe it's at Cocoa Beach. You've got Punta Cana, Corrales. We've got Mayakoba, which, where am I forgetting which the one it is? Doesn't matter. El Camaleon, I think, is where they play that. RSM would be Seaside, and then you got RBC Heritage Courses Arbor Town. And then I also threw in Pebble Beach, because from a distance and a par, and you're on the Pacific Ocean, it's not as like tropical, and of course either is probably RSM or RBC, but I think they all fit very well. Either they're Bermuda or past Palm for all these courses. And of course, I'm also pulling in Port Royale, but we don't get stroke gain there. Out of these courses, I think we get stroke gain for the Sony, RSM, RBC. I would be shocked if we get it for PRO, Corrales, or Mayakoba. So I didn't really think of that, but so you might be weighted more heavily on these, but neither here or there. With that said, and Pebble Beach, you do get stroke gain data just on Pebble Beach, not Monterey or Spyglass. Okay. So I mentioned Eric EVR. We haven't seen him in a while, and he had a neck injury. And I pulled the top 18 guys against these comparable courses. Some of this data might not have came across for all of these, but either here or there. It's kind of the guys we've been looking at. You got the McGirt, you got Knox, Nick Taylor, which makes sense, right? He won at Pebble Beach. Dylan Wu, Wesley Bryant, the Glover, Smell the Glove, great ball striker, terrible putter. My Nate Lashley shows up. You got another European gentleman that's Corn Ferry came over, Mateus Schwab. Been playing a lot more in the PGA. Seamus Power, Bryce Garnett, and Stuart Wright fall right in that Ryan Armour, Brian Gay, Brendan Todd, the plotters, hit the fairways, get it on the green, hope they make a putt. CT Pan, you got Norlander, Donald, Vaughn Taylor again, the Hoster, who's just been trash. But out of this field, if he could get it going, I mean, he could do something here. And then of course Adam Long pops up again. And that's probably why I pulled 18, just because I wanted to show you guys he popped into the comp courses. And then I think what I did here is I took a simplified model and I wanted to look at the bombers. So, I told you there's two ways that you can play this. And I wanted to see the guys that had a little more driving distance. EVR shows up: Glover, McGirt, Sungwoo Bae, Henrik Norlander, Wes Bryant, Knox, Watney, Seamus Power, Dylan Wu, Charlie Hoffman, Austin Smart, Nick Taylor, Scott Piercy, and Brian Stewart. Funny enough, you can see, I don't know why, but yeah, Brian Stewart does not have distance. Out of this, funny enough, Hoffman's showing up against these courses is the number one from a distance perspective. That's interesting. But yeah, we don't have a lot of bombers in this field that I noticed. And then I mentioned EVR. If I've wanted to pull this up for myself because I'm like, I can't even think of the last time I saw this guy. He actually played at the Genesis Scottish Open, and he had a WD, I think, or pull out of that. I think he had a neck injury, as I mentioned. And this is coming from the European Tour stuff, but he has played twice on the Euro Tour in October, and he made the cut at the Indulce Masters and missed a cut here. It looks like recent the Morocco Golf Open. I don't know. We're going to call it that. So nothing, great. But I mean, out of this field, I mean, if he was healthy, I think it was been early, spring, summer, where he had a good chance. I think at the Barbasol or the Barracuda. I get the two always mixed up. Actually did very well there. So that's like the last time I remember him showing up. So real quick, from a betting perspective, again, I'm not putting a ton of this. I really like it when I can watch a lot of the golf. This is going to be another tournament where we're not going to get PGA Live. They're not coming back, I think, until the Houston Open. So we got this, Mayakoba, and then they're back in the States. So I'm not going to put a lot, but I really like Adam Long at 40-1. Garrett Cagle was, funny enough, the first guy I thought of that I wanted to bet. And at that time, he was 80-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. I think these are MGM odds, so just so you know, but they're pretty close. If you think about it, Garrett Cagle, right, just had a good showing at, again, I think it was a Zozo. Maybe it was one tournament before that. Top 3, top 5? Both his wins on the European Tour was at the Canary Islands. Very similar. What does he do? I think he's very prototypical of what Lucas Herbert does. He's long off the tee, but he can also get wayward, and he's actually a really good putter. Everything else, it's kind of hit or miss. So I just thought, hey, perfect. If it ends up falling like it did last year, Garrett Cagle 80-1. I wanted to get all over that. Adam Schenk also, I think out of this field, one of the better players. 45-1. Also, just in my mind, I keep thinking about him on Bermuda. In weak fields, he does take advantage. Nate Lashley 100-1. I already mentioned. We talked a bit about him. I think that's a great bet. Then Joseph Bramlett would be probably, I don't know, up there as the number one, probably bomber. Yeah, driving distance number one out of this field. The guy, had some good showings on the Corn Ferry this year and, is healthy. And if he can use that driver's advantage and just make some putts, you'll also see the putter is like almost last in this field. And then you got my buddy Rich Wierenski, where this is just I don't know, it's a YOLO fear missing, it's like a YOLO FOMO bet, to be honest. I'm putting like $10 on it, so I'm not getting crazy, but this is a tournament he could win. And if my buddy Blackbeard was also here, I'd probably throw some money on him. Okay, moving along. All right, let's go over into Fantasy National. We're going to quickly go through some of the players that I like from a DFS perspective, and then I'll talk weather real fast. I'll just show you where to go, and then I'll wrap this for you guys, and we will get out of here. Okay, I've hopped over into Fantasy National, and as always, if you're going to be betting or playing DFS, PGA Golf, I highly recommend this tool if you want to do your own analysis. And with that said, we're going to be focused on DraftKings pricing, but as always, you can use these picks on FanDuel or whatever, Yahoo, whatever you're doing. And as always, I have already went through, done some filtering, kind of, of course, did some of my own work before this. And we're going to look at the last 24 rounds, 6 tournaments of golf. I've got no filters on, so this is going to be more of a recent form look. But I already kind of, in my mind, did some filtering on just Bermuda. You've got 5 keystroke categories, kind of the mini model that I've got. Told you putting's number 1, approach and good drive. So those are all about 30% weighted. And then there's proximity 100 to 125, and those long par 3s are what I'm going to be using to kind of pull the guys out that I'm interested in. This is the birdies gained over the last 24 rounds of golf they played. You would like to see some green on, if possible, some high green, but you're going to, kind of see with this field that we're not going to get a ton. You do get to see recent results, the last 5 tournaments they played, and then tournament history we can use because this is the same course they play every time. All right, with that said, I'm going to move through this kind of quick as I have been, but I'm just going to kind of call out the guys that I'm interested in playing at kind of each pricing level for you. I'm going to try to give you about 20 picks is my plan. Might be one over or one less, but at least give you a player pool that I'll be looking to use. And right out of the gate, you've got four guys at the 10,000 range. I think it's kind of interesting that Seamus Power. I guess it's on tournament history because I don't feel like he's been playing that great at golf. That he's in the 10,000 range. So honestly, if I had to pick out of these guys, it'd probably either be Denny. Oh, I didn't even notice Aaron Rise also at the 10,000 and Hubbard. Okay, I apologize. We got six guys, and that's pretty ugly to pay 10,000 for these guys. But I guess you got to put somebody there, right? So I mean, honestly, I think from a perspective, you got Detry, who's had a 22nd here. Let's go look at all their history. And yes, I'm doing this on the fly with you guys. So I'll tell you right now, out of these guys, if I had to play guys at the 10,000 range, I would go with Detry or Mark Hubbard. And that's just what I know of both these guys, what their game brings. I think honestly, it'd probably be Mark Hubbard out of the five. So if you ask me, or out of the six, whatever we got there, that's where I would go. Then you start the 9,000s, and I like Justin Lowry. You can see he's actually number one in putting. Let's go look. If I do Bermuda, I'm just curious who. I looked at this already, but I'm going to show you guys who came up number one putter on Bermuda, and also where these guys rank. All right, so Detry also pops up to number 3 out of this field when you just put the Bermuda split on. Hubbard goes to 30th. So he drops a little bit on Bermuda. I was just curious on how that would shake out. All right, let's go back and just stay with the last 6 tournaments. I just wanted to see real quick for my own. All right, so what did I say? We've got Detry or Hubbard. Come on. That I like. Detry. We got Hubbard. I like Lauer. So if you're up here, you could definitely start there. Nick Hardy, I think from a ball striking perspective, it was a tougher course. I just don't think he brings the elements. I think he's a great ball striker. So if I was playing like a longer, tougher course, Patrick Rogers kind of falls there. I need a good putter, short. I do like S.H. Kim. Played him quite a bit. Of course, he had a good showing. And it's kind of funny. I don't know why. I swear this guy played at the Zozo. I know he did. And I don't know why. For whatever reason, that information is not in here. So I don't know what to say about that, but he ended up top 5. So funny enough, it says Shriners. Maybe is that what I'm thinking? I thought I played it. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, okay, I'm an idiot. It was actually the Shriners that he. Okay, strike that and SHM because, like I said, I played kind of that all Asian lineup and did very well, and he was one of the guys that was in there. Okay, so I like his game. Smalley, man, it's hard. Out of the two, I feel like this guy could score better than Smalley. I like Sig. I'm just kind of cruising through. So Adam Long for sure, 8,900. Honestly, if I had to start a lineup with any of these guys that I've mentioned, I would actually, you already know, I'm heavily biased on Adam Long. So you guys will know for the bit that I do put in DFS, if Adam Long goes sideways, you'll know that I'm just done. Also, I would kind of note that if you've got some players that you just like, that that are kind of like in your group that you like to play, I mean, this is as good as any time to play them, to be honest. Because, like I said, I think all these guys are pretty rough, right? And we know that. I think you got to play Knox just on course history. The putting makes me a bit nervous, but I'm going to go ahead and plug in Knox. And I think that's giving me a couple in the 9s. Let's move on. I really like Shank. He's also playing. Yep, I'm putting him in. So I would play him. Also remember that I also like Gordon. Like I said, I want to play kind of that mix of bombers and good putters. They both have had okay finishes here back in 2021, a 26, a 34. I mean, Benoit Annis, again, like I said, some of these guys just could be so hard to pull the trigger on the number. I'd rather play Colin Tarrant. I think he's a good play. Funny enough, he played here and had a DQ, but I kind of like his game. You can see what he's done. Glick, I think he's also not a bad play. And I'll kind of get to go back through these and make sure I'm not going too nutty. EVR, no thank you. Percy, funny enough, I mean, he does show up with some pretty decent form at this place. 7,900 for Cameron Percy. Let that sink in. I mean, I think Doug Gim's a much better player than Pat, and he had a T14 here. So you could do worse. I actually like Ryder, and I like Justin Hadley for sure. And yes, the stroke gain stuff, but I already mentioned Justin Haley actually shows #1, and he does what I want, a T16 Sam Ryder. But I feel like Sam's been playing better golf. Um, so yeah, I like those guys at the 7,000 range. I told you Bramlett. What has he done here? I think he could be an interesting switch up. So here would be a couple of the bombers I'd be going with. So what do we got here? I'll real quick scroll up. I don't want to go too nuts. So we got 15 guys already. I like Glover too. Did a good showing at the FedEx, but hasn't really done a whole lot since. All right, I'm gonna scroll through. There were some other guys that were in my mind that I wanted to play. Sorry, I'm trying to get through. I think I'll play Hank. Kind of the brand. I mean, you can see he's not been doing well, but he's had a pretty good history here. Let me go take a look at Hammer and Hank for a second. I mean, he does what I typically like. It doesn't gain on Bermuda. What have you been struggling so bad with? So this is when he had that run last, so not this recent summer, but the summer before. Let me just see where he's had some of his best finishes. So funny enough, his best finishes ever was at Bermuda back in 2019. The Rocket Mortgage, John Deere, Valspar, Canadian. I'm just seeing there's Bermuda again. You know what? I guess he'd be my differentiator. I'm going to go and play some Hank, and I'm going to play Nate. I already mentioned. I like my Brian Stu. Well, you know what? I'm going to go with Ramey. I mentioned his win. I believe that's the Puerto Rico, right? So hit it far, but he's pretty accurate. And Corrales, Punta Cana. So he won the Punta Cana, not the PRO. Take that back. I don't know if there's any guys. There's, I guess, a few down here. I'll give you a couple 6,000s if you're interested. Jonathan Bird had a little run there early in the year. I mean, you can kind of see it's been pretty bad, but I don't know, man. The guy, when he comes here, does typically very well. So I would not, wouldn't put it past. I would probably plug him in. I had someone. I like Vaughn Taylor. Nicholas Lenheim. Another Euro. You got the plotter Stroud. Boy, look at Harry Higgs, man. He is struggling. He's gonna lose his card. There's Grayson Murray. If you're looking for a bomber, let's see how many guys I got there for you. I want to try to get you guys 20 that I like. That's usually what I like to use for a player pool. All right, I got 19. Luke Donald, you could plug in. Let's go by rank here. So if you want to know by the model ranking who comes up #1, Justin Hadley, Adam Long, Hubbard, Ryder, Knox, Vaughn Taylor, Lauer, Colin Taryn, Will Gordon, Thomas Detry, the Shankster, S.H. Kim, Nate Lashley, Hank Laboda, Michael Glick, Chad Ramey, Joseph Brownlee, Higo, and Richie Wierenski. If I had to play another one in the sevens, probably be I think Luke Donald was down there. Be one of the plotters, maybe even you go down to the sixes for you. I'll give you like Luke Donald, Cook, Austin Cook, you'd be all right. Stroud, he's actually been playing okay, at least the last time I saw him. I also like Bobby Shelton. I'm a fan of him, but man, $9,100. Like I said, that shows you what this field. But I mean, you can see what he's been doing. I mean, I click him as, but it's just another guy in the nines. I'm not really helping you when you need to get lower. Let me give you one more play down low. Let me work my way up, and John Daly's in the field. That is freaking hilarious. Last time I remember him, I don't know if it was like the PGA. I guess it'd be the PGA Championship. He came out and like birdied a few holes right out of the gate. It was kind of shocking. Maybe Martin Trainer. I mentioned, like I said, he showed up on the putting side, and he had a couple decent outings. I feel like early spring, so he does gain on Bermuda. Where was it? He kind of started the Mexico Open. I don't know if the Corrales. Let's see where he's done well. Maybe he's there. Yeah, Puerto Rico Open, Corrales. Those are all pretty recent. Phoenix Open, he at least had the 40s. I don't know that. I guess I'd plug in some Martin Trainer at 61. I got you a couple 6,100 guys. So if you're getting a little nutty, honestly, again, I think anyone, not anyone. Oh, there's Ryan Brem. Whoa. Let's go back here. So Mr. Bremy, he won. Is it the Puerto Rico? They're all these literally combined in my brain. Yeah, he won the Puerto Rico to literally keep his PGA card. He had a good showing there before. Not too bad at Bermuda. I mean, he could be interesting. A guy who hits it a ton. Corrales. So that's another guy. Again, I mean, you can see he's just been trash. But a lot of these guys. So if you, I mean, I'm just saying, if you're down here and if you're building a bomber lineup, put Ryan Brim in there. I think he hits it like 330, 340 on average. It says 314, but the guy just kills it. And he seems like the last time the guy's done anything was a 3M Open. Gained on the putter, so he's been putting okay. It's funny, off the tee, he's not even gaining. I don't know. Anyways, like I said, it's a long shot, but it's somebody you could think of. All right, let's go real quick, jump over to weather just so you guys can see. Use Wind Finder, of course, if you're doing Showdown, and if you're going to want to pull up this Hog Bay, which, of course, that is where literally the wild hogs live. I think it's like a pink sandy beach there. And what I noticed, again, let me see. This was a little earlier. I pulled this up. Let's see if the weather has changed in the last couple hours. You see Friday is where it looks like she's going to be blowing a little more, but I mean, it's a coastal course. Saturday. Really, all I wanted to tell you is that there's going to be wind. Keep an eye, pull up Hog Bay. It's right next to the course, and that's what you want to do from a weather perspective. All right, let's jump out of here and wrap it up. All right, guys, thanks so much for your time. And as always, if you do me the honor, click that like button. Share this with anybody else that for some odd reason is still playing DFS golf. I'm just kind of joking, but like I said, we're in the doldrums of golf. But I like these events. From a betting perspective, I like these events. Because like I said, this is when you can hit. So if you're going to do anything with the Bermuda, I'd bet a few, maybe put a lineup or two in. I mean, you do whatever you want, but I won't be putting in a ton in DFS. I've got too much money that going on the football side. So, but I will be putting some bets in, probably put together some teams, maybe a showdown team here or there. But yeah, then the next week we're Maya Kobus. I'll do the same thing, maybe a quick show. And then when we get to Houston, RSM, I will, put a little more depth into it because like so the field should improve some. So if you guys, again, if you're not subscribed for some odd reason, you're watching me for the Bermuda, you got to hit that subscribe button. Keep me doing what I'm doing. And you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the golf. Enjoy the football. And I'll talk to you guys next week. Take care.